Today's NFL fans are spoiled. All of us are living in an era that has by far the most talented crop of players that the 100-year-old league has ever seen. From franchise to franchise, position to position, even special teamers today, there is so much elite athleticism and talent across the board. That being said, all that talent is an accumulation of a series of drafts over the past 10 years or so, and not every draft class is created equally. Whether it's the talent level that varies or just the situations that players end up in that changes, one thing's for sure, there's a significant disparity in the output from draft class to draft class. Even before this recent influx of talent, the NFL was known for having some pretty legendary draft classes. People love to talk about the 1996 NFL draft class because of all of the big-name talent that came out of it. Ray Lewis, Marvin Harrison, Terrell Owens, any of those names ring a bell? There was a 2001 class that featured generational talents like LaDainian Tomlinson, Drew Brees, Michael Vick, and 31 other guys who made it to at least one Pro Bowl. And of course, there's a 2007 crew that saw 16 first-round picks turn into Pro Bowlers, some of who are absolute studs. Players like Adrian Peterson, Calvin Johnson, Joe Thomas, the list goes on, but you get the point. Perhaps a more interesting phenomenon than the immense amounts of talent that entered the league at the same time is the fact that every so often, it seems like we will see a draft class that is absolutely loaded with talent, rounds 1 through 7, but all at one position group. It seems bizarre that in a given year, the draft would be chock full of talent at any one position, considering the fact that every year, college football has a ton of stars across the board. But for some reason, there's a significant degree of variation in how the college stars pan out at the next level. In some cases, the best draft picks strangely weren't even stars in college. Guys like Josh Jacobs or Alvin Kamara, whose production was limited either by depth at their position or their respective teams or by the system that their coaches deployed. But either way, the point remains, some draft classes go down in history for the impact of its selections at one specific position had on the NFL. There are a few draft classes that stand alone in the NFL history books for this. For starters, there's the quarterback class of 1983. You know, the one that saw 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. John Elway, Todd Blackledge, Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, Ken O'Brien, and of course, Dan Marino. This was one hyped-up draft class heading into it, and boy did it live up to the billing. 6 was the highest number of first-round quarterback selections ever. And while obviously not every selection can become an all-time great, this group did a pretty good job of transitioning their game to the next level. 4 of them played in a Super Bowl, 3 of them were Pro Bowlers, and 3 ended up in Canton as Hall of Famers. The only black eye on the group was its collective 2-9 Super Bowl record, but all things considered, to see 11 appearances in the big game is pretty impressive to begin with. The 2004 crop of quarterbacks was pretty epic in its own right. The first round featured 3 guys who are all still active in the league 15 years later, and are sure to be walking into the Hall of Fame after they retire. Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Philip Rivers. All 3 of these guys have thrown for over 40,000 yards and 300 touchdowns, not to mention there are 4 Super Bowl victories between the 3 of them, with Big Ben winning 2 in Pittsburgh and Eli winning 2 for the Giants. These draft classes' positional dominance isn't just limited to quarterbacks, though. In fact, the 1996 draft class didn't even see a quarterback picked in the first round. But that draft class had wide receiver talent like you wouldn't believe. There were 5 receivers selected in the first round, and none of the receivers selected played for less than 8 seasons in the NFL. So it is safe to say that there were no real busts. But not having any busts isn't what makes a draft class legendary. It is having surefire Hall of Famers like Marvin Harrison and bona fide Pro Bowl talents like Keyshawn Johnson and Eric Moulds, who is one of the most underappreciated wideouts ever. It isn't just about the first-round talents in these draft classes either. Amani Toomer and Muhsin Muhammad were taken in the second round. Terrell Owens, arguably one of the most gifted wide receivers ever, was taken in the third round. And of course, there's Joe Horn, who put up ridiculous numbers for a 5th-round pick over the course of his career, hauling in 603 catches and 58 touchdowns for over 8,744 yards. When you look at the draft as a whole, of the top 13 receivers selected, really only 4 of them didn't turn into competent pros. For the most part, all of those draft classes are finished products, so to speak, meaning the stars that came out of them have all either retired or have given the bulk of their production already. There is one draft class, a more recent one, that when we look back at it 20 years from now, it proved to be the most dominant crop of any one position group ever. That would be the 2017 running back draft class, which was absolutely littered with talents. There was talent in the first round, the second round, nearly every single one, including some of the undrafted guys that have made their ways onto NFL rosters. So let's take a look at some of the guys that make up this epic draft class and see how it stacks up to these other old-timers. People love to argue until they are blue in the face whether or not running backs are worth first-round selections, but regardless of where you fall on that issue, both of the backs taken in the top 10 picks in 2017 have been studs so far. Leonard Fournette was taken 4th overall, and while he has had a little bit of trouble staying on the field, it is hard to imagine what the recent Jacksonville Jaguars offenses would have looked like without him. Every opposing defense that they squared up against, it was all eyes on Fournette. 8 guys in the box, the whole 9 yards, and he managed to rush for over 1,000 yards in just 13 games in his rookie year, and he's averaged 4 yards per carry for his career. The second back taken in this draft at number 8 overall has made both his actual owners in the NFL and fantasy owners everywhere very happy. Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey hails from a strong NFL pedigree and was a star in college, but no one predicted he would be this effective at the NFL level, besides the Panthers scouts, I suppose. He had a very effective rookie campaign, netting over 1,200 yards from scrimmage and becoming the first running back in NFL history to snag at least 70 receptions and 5 touchdown catches. And what's crazy is that this was modest compared to what he has done since. In 2018, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, he had over 800 receiving yards, and scored 13 total touchdowns en route to earning All-Pro honors. And he looks to be on the right trajectory to continue his torrid attack. As you continue down the draft board, there is no shortage of successful running backs. The second round saw Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon taken, and they're only 2 of the most talented backs in the entire NFL right now. Cook got off to a great start to his career, but was quickly sidelined with a torn ACL, which obviously ended his rookie campaign, and got into his second season as well. Regardless, it is looking like he is absolutely back. Just 5 games through the 2019 season, Cook has already netted over 700 yards from scrimmage and is averaging nearly 6 yards per carry, and while there is no guarantee, it is looking like Cook at the very least is going to be earning Pro Bowl honors in 2019. Mixon, on the other hand, has been a little bit of a mixed bag in Cincinnati, but most of his inconsistent production has been attributed to the endless dysfunction that is the Bengals organization. All of that said, Mixon still rushed for over 1,100 yards in just 14 games in 2018. Pretty good. As we talked about with all the other draft classes, what really distinguishes some of these draft classes is the depth that it has, and boy does the 2017 draft class ever have depth. In the third round, there were 2 guys that have already earned Pro Bowl honors, Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara. Hunt played his college ball at Toledo, a rather anonymous alma mater, but he was electric in his rookie season, earning Pro Bowl honors and netting nearly 1,800 yards from scrimmage and scoring 11 total touchdowns. In most draft classes, that kind of production would be the steal of the draft, but Kamara really takes it to a whole other level. Out of the third round, Kamara earned Rookie of the Year honors, an All-Pro selection, and 2 trips to the Pro Bowl. If you are wondering how a talent like Kamara could have possibly fallen that far in the draft, just ask University of Tennessee coach Butch Jones, who was hell-bent on misusing the running back as much as humanly possible during his college days. The fact that Jones was insistent on having Kamara share the backfield with Jalen Hurd definitely didn't help matters much either. The last 5 running backs that were selected back in 2017 have each made their marks on the league in one way or another. There's James Conner, who earned a trip to the Pro Bowl after averaging 4.5 yards per carry and 9 yards per reception in Pittsburgh in 2018, while the team's longtime starter Le'Veon Bell sat out amid a contract dispute. The next back taken, Tariq Cohen, has been electric in Chicago. Although his diminutive stature limits his ability to be a 3-down back, every time he is on the field, the defense is on high alert. And with good reason. The shifty running back has proven he has the ability to make would-be tacklers miss at will, and he has a propensity for chunk plays. After Cohen, Marlon Mack and Aaron Jones were the next 2 running backs taken. Both men saw limited action their rookie season before emerging in 2018 with bigger roles. And to really cement their talents, Mack and Jones have parlayed those performances into feature back type roles in 2019. I guess maybe those don't take a running back in the first round people may have a point. To close out this unreal group of running backs, let's look at the final 3 selected. I'll use the word selected loosely because Chris Carson was taken at number 249 after a possible 256 draft picks, and both Matt Breida and Austin Eckler were actually undrafted. Carson burst onto the scene in 2018, rushing for over 1,100 yards While Breida and Eckler both have shown to be legitimate starting running backs in 2019, as both guys stepped in for their respective teams' first stringers who were missing time for an assortment of reasons. Top to bottom, this could prove to be the best crop of guys in any one position from a single draft ever. Simply put, no other group has this many guys making an impact this early in their careers. And when you think about how late so many of these guys were taken, it just gets more insane. There are a few factors still hanging in the balance, as all these guys are still in only year 3 of their careers, but anything could happen. But don't be surprised if in 20 years the talk of the 1983 or 96 or 2004 draft classes all pales in comparison to the accomplishments that these running backs from 2017 accumulate during their time in the NFL. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video, we'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TPS for more cool videos every single day.